I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
Which I'll be able to do as soon as I get this ankle monitor off. But anyway, welcome everyone to the
good luck with
Reckless
that.
Musecast. I got a pair of shears, so I think that'll be.
Yeah, not ever tried that before.
Yeah, no, not these kind of shears. So the thing I want to share with you. So
on the pod, by the way,
Yeah.
just that he has some bad news. He wanted to wait till we started recording. So,
I talked to the doctor, and he said it is not benign. No, he said no.
no, two. We're not even a minute in.
No. So after it was actually I wrote an article the day David Lynch passed away. I wrote this article, and I sent it to the Free Press just for the hell of it to see if they would be interested in publishing it. And then I didn't hear anything from them for 2 weeks. I was like, all right, well, whatever. So the last episode we did, I think we did the sort of Hollywood's Good Germans thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So but the specific topic about Hollywood's Good Germans. So I made a pitch out of that, and I sent it to the Free Press, and they got back to me a day later, and they were like, one of the editors there, who shall remain nameless, responded and said, "Hey, this is interesting. Can you make it more specific? By the way, I really liked your David Lynch piece." It's like, holy shit! Like you guys actually
very cool.
Yeah, so they actually read it. They didn't. I thought about responding and be like, "Hey, it's still available," but I was like, "No, don't push your luck. Just focus on the topic at hand." Okay. So I refined the pitch and I sent it back, and I didn't hear from them for a few days. And then I said, "Hey, is there an update on this?" And they're like, we're gonna pass on this." So, so that was my little. But
that's it. Okay, yeah, I thought you got like fired from something or
no.
Oh, okay. So you almost. You talked to someone at the Free Press,
and they responded, and they liked my writing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
tell me when we're done recording who it was, because I read them regularly. We're going to talk about them today.
Yeah, exactly. I will.
That's cool.
So
almost there.
Yeah. So, but at least I kind of know. Like, first off, they know that they like my writing, and I have a better idea of how to pitch an article too. So
yeah. It's something I never really liked to do. I was always much more of the write it first, because I want to write it how I want to, and if a publication likes it, take it. Like, that's fine. But I wasn't really like of the waiting for permission to write something. Like, I don't know. That's just not how I like to operate. Yeah. Which is why I've never been published in the Free Press. I did receive once from the New Yorker. I was sort of like a personalized response. That was pretty cool. It was something I wrote. I was like, this was like 2017 maybe, and they were like, "We really love this. It's just not for this section. Try sending it to this other one," because it was like satirical and violent, and it was about it was like mass shooting stuff.
Nice.
It's called Freedom World. I think I still have it somewhere on my Medium. It's very old now. Yeah. I was of a different political persuasion than you could say. But actually, a lot of those, I still feel, a lot of those feelings haven't really changed when it comes to guns and things like that, all that much. Yeah. But anyway, I do remember that. That was very cool. It's like, holy shit, you guys actually read this? Like, I thought this was going some big pot, like, just throwing out, fuck this, like, throw it. Yeah. And it was just like kind of who you know, and I was like, oh my God, someone actually read this at the New Yorker. That's cool.
Yeah. So it was a good little feeling where it's like, you guys probably get 100 pitches a day. And the fact that we're like, and so that this guy actually, it's a male editor that kind of narrows it down. No, but like just the fact that it was like, they didn't have to say, "Hey, I liked your David Lynch article, by the way." Like, you remember that? That was 2 weeks ago. That was probably, you probably read 3,000 pitches between.
Right.
But yeah, I shall keep you posted on how I plan to prank them out of revenge. No, I'm kidding. But so speaking of the Free Press, this is the LA Times guy, the owner of the LA Times.
So the LA Times, which is your hometown paper.
Yeah.
If you remember, they have my all-time favorite headline, and I'm not I'm not exaggerating there. The greatest headline I've ever read, which was about Larry
Elder.
Larry Elder, who was he's a conservative radio host is he in LA?
Yeah.
He's in LA. Yeah. He's Black, and he ran for governor against during the recall, right, of Newsom. This was like 4 years ago, whenever that was. And the LA Times had the headline, "The Black Face of White Supremacy," which is still, I think, the best headline of all time. And this guy who owned it. So first of all, he's Korean,
I believe so.
And I have a question. Quick question.
Yeah.
It says he's a surgeon.
Yes.
But he's also a billionaire.
Yeah.
How do you become a billionaire being a surgeon?
You operate on other billionaires, I guess.
Like, that's crazy. Like, don't get me wrong. I want surgeons to be compensated handsomely. Like, I'm a big fan of like, it's incredible what they do.
Yeah.
I've had surgery. It's amazing. But to become a billionaire, I don't know if it's possible. His name is Patrick Soon Xiong. He's a billionaire surgeon. It's in the first sentence of the article that we're reading, which is called "The Owner of the LA Times Takes the Red Pill" by Peter Savodnik. Was it Peter Savodnik?
It was not.
Okay.
But he is an editor. So the editors, they mostly edit, but they sometimes contribute articles. So he was definitely on my list of like, oh, okay. Maybe instead of submitting directly instead of submitting to like the general email, like maybe submit to direct editor. So he was on my list. So he's on. I'm aware of him. Yeah. I'm
going through the Rolodex of male editors in my head. Like, I don't always remember the who's in. Like, I reckon I know a lot of the names at the Free Press, but I don't know like who's what. Like, who's a contributor, who's an editor.
Right. Yeah.
Coleman Hughes is an editor, right? No,
I think he's a contributor.
He's the contributor. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So yes, this is that. I mean, it says it in the title. The owner of the LA Times Take the Red Pill, which, given where they were in 2020, during the Great Awakening, through that, like with that headline and many others, it's that's very like this is more to me than just like a vibe shift. Like when I think of the vibe shifts of something like the LA Times, I think like, okay, they're just going to tone it down a little. They're going to get back to kind of the typical liberal stuff. But this guy came out in support of the RFK nomination, right? Yeah. So not even like, RFK when he was a Democrat running against Biden, or RFK when he was an independent. Like, RFK as a Republican, hopefully and likely now going to be confirmed.
Yeah. Being appointed by Trump.
Yeah, exactly. In the Trump administration.
Yeah.
You have the owner of the LA Times. And honestly, when you read this article, and I will get into specifics, but he says it right here. It's basically just like, this guy had other shit going on, and he just handed it over to his super progressive daughter, and he probably wasn't really keeping track of it. Yeah. And you and I kind of met at this time, like internet met, probably around in 2020, I would say, and then
late 2020 or early 2021, I think.
Like early 2021, we decided to make a podcast, and we started recording in the summer. Yeah. But I don't know if we were like Twitter friends. Right. In 2020, I can't remember. We'll look into that. We'll dive into the archives. But like this time was not long ago at all, and was very different. So do you have anything to add, or should I start reading some of this?
Yeah. Go ahead and start reading it.
So just setting it up. We all know what happened in 2020, how insane it was. COVID, George Floyd's death, and the Black Lives Matter protests and riots. There was a mix. So, like a lot of and this is where I'll set it up, like a lot of these media outlets, these publications, whatever, there was right here inside the newsroom, there was rancor, grief, and outrage over the way the paper had covered the city over the decades. And as reporters saw it, fueled the same kind of violence that had taken George Floyd's life. It's hard to say that without laughing. Yeah. This was spelled out in an all-staff email from executive editor Norman Pearlstein on June 5th, 2020. So this is a quote: "At a moment when thousands of protesters are pushing America to examine how systematic racism has shaped our institutions, we would be remiss in not examining our own institution as well. Pearlstein, whom Sun Xiong told me had begged to run his newsroom. So
this cracks me up. So for a couple of very quick, personal asides, this whole thing of like, we need to acknowledge our complicitness in whatever the controversy is, cracks me up so fucking much. And I actually saw this when I was working in the Silicon Valley tech startup world. So I remember I was having lunch. It was a team lunch, and then there was this gal, and she's Asian, and she and I, we got along fine, but she's Asian. Then the topic just kind of wandered over to implicit bias and privilege, which was like the big thing in Silicon Valley in like 2016, 2017. And she just said something. I kind of zoned out, but I just heard her saying, it's very important that we all acknowledge, our own privileges and biases. I have them too, and I'm trying to work on. It's like, why? Like, unless you've committed a race crime or something, like a hate crime, you don't need to acknowledge your complicitness, or So it's like sort of preemptive of like the good German thing of like, I need to like be super proactive. If I see anything that looks like it's going in a bad direction, I need to call it out instantly. And then this other thing too. So somebody, a performer who I met through that performing arts organization, on his own personal Instagram, he was very pro-Palestine. And he posted a thing saying, we all need to be able to call out genocide whenever it happens. And I need to acknowledge that I haven't done as good of enough job of doing this as well. Calling out genocide, you're an LA performer. Like what? It's so like, but anyway, I just
call it out like, Hamas and Israel's going to be like, oh fuck, this guy in LA calling out I guess we got to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we're going to knock it off now.
This guy posts on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was bizarre. It was like very Marxist struggle session.
Yeah.
It was the apex of the Trump era 1.0, where these identity things were really in vogue in the latter half, really in all of the 20 teens, and then it reached its climax in 2020, and it's all been downhill from there to the point where, DEI is fading away. It's literally becoming illegal. It's fading away. It's like even in private companies, I should say in private companies, it's fading away, like huge ones like Google and Facebook, and they're really and had been going that way for a while, even during the Biden administration. But it just is extremely unpopular. I think a lot of people like to associate things like being nice to each other. It's like, no, it's not DEI. Like, no one is complaining about like, hey, let's like try not to say racist things in the office. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is like separating people by racial and gender categories, hyper focusing on race to the point where it's, and those other topics, like the point where it's taking away from what our company or our organization does. It's about oppressor versus oppressed, and really flattening much more comprehensive issues. Like, that's what it is. It's very unpopular. It's very unpopular not just among like white straight men. It's unpopular with like pretty much everyone except for like white liberal women with multiple degrees. Love it. Everyone else, I can't really stand it, with exception. But anyway, so that's where we were at this time. But now, and they kind of like, we don't need to rehash all the things that were going on. It is pretty insane that, something like the LA Times is going to say, I'll just read some of what the editorials were saying, that like COVID, and wait, this is them. Yes. So over the next few months, there would be dispatches and editorials about, and this is all in the LA Times, COVID disproportionately killing people of color, which I don't think was even true. I think like actually old white people suffered the most from COVID, had the most COVID deaths, worsening race relations and structural racism in LA's private schools and the criminal justice system, and columns about critical race theory and reporting while Black, and many, many letters about being Latino in LA and being Asian in LA and being white and feeling guilty. I didn't realize how much of like a run on, like how much that sentence kept going. But like when I was reading it there, I actually was like kind of like it was all coming to me. Anyway, so Joe, how does it feel to be Latino in LA? Does it feel like I'm like, this isn't Latino in Alaska? Like, it's Latino in LA. The fucking name of the city is Spanish. Like, I think it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, it's just like even like the nicest, most celebrity ridden neighborhoods still have, the hole in the wall taco place. So it's like, you're not getting run out. Like, we're not getting run out of town. It's not like,
no one wants that either.
And also, it's, I'm not going to speak for Asians here, but it's like we have like Chinatown and we have Koreatown, and I'm not saying that we should. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like we have, like, it just seems like Asian culture is pretty well celebrated here and pretty welcomed. I don't really. Yeah.
So that was some of the highlights. I am surprised though that this article didn't have the Larry Elder. Larry Elder.
I think that's the crowning jewel of.
That was really bad. I thought that was satire when that came out because it was so amazing. Let me see if I can find it.
It was like it sounded like a Babylon Bee article.
Yes.
I think the Babylon Bee, some satire, it might have been the Onion, but some satire website published an article that was like, the KKK is now trying to be more diverse by letting in blacks and gays and Jews.
Yeah. Hold on. Did they change it?
I think they did. I think there's the chick who wrote that got so much backlash.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it is here. The column. This is August 20th, 2021. Oh God, look at all these pop-ups. But anyway. So I just signed in. I was doing this on my old laptop. If you have it up, can you?
I have it. It's called. So the actual article itself has the thing saying Larry Elder's the blackface of white supremacy. You've been warned. But when you Google it though, it's called "Recall Candidate Larry Elder is a Threat to Black Californians."
Gotcha. But there was the title.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The title's still there. They just changed it in the Google search now. Yeah. So, but yeah. Anyway.
Okay. No. So I'm pulling up because I have to sign into the Free Press. I had it up on my other thing. Okay. Here we are. Yeah. Give me a sec. If you have it up, I want to take over.
Yeah. I can now see how much systemic racism has framed my views of society and our communities, and how it did so just by reading this paper. One woman wrote in. It was all capped off with an editorial headline: "An examination of the Times' failures on race, our apology, and a path forward." An op-ed penned by Soon Xiong. As the Los Angeles Times' first non-white owners in its nearly 139 history, my wife, Michelle, and I are determined to increase diversity, he wrote. Soon Xiong went a long way toward fulfilling that promise when, in June 2021, he replaced Pearlstein with Kevin Morita, a black former Washington Post managing editor. By 2022, the anti-racist fever had cooled, but it was still the state religion inside legacy media. So it was hardly surprising when, in October of that year, the paper endorsed Congresswoman Karen Bass, who was running against developer Rick Caruso to be mayor of Los Angeles. Quick aside, Rick Caruso was just on Joe Rogan.
Was it?
Yeah. And he was also on Sam Harris's podcast too. I mean, I'm not like in love with the guy, but I'm like, he's far more reasonable and moderate and sensible than Karen Bass.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she was. She did not. Did you see her response to the fires? Like non-response. It was like
non-response.
She in the headlight. She had no idea. I mean, she was on a taxpayer-funded trip to Ghana for who knows what reason. Like, why is a mayor of a city going to that? Doesn't even that's like a state position. Why is it just shows the corruption?
Yeah,
that it's like, oh yeah, no, the mayor of the second largest city in America is taking a taxpayer-funded trip to another country for some celebratory thing. It's just beyond me. But
yeah, don't get me started.
It's like you don't even expect, God. I mean, can you blame her? It's not like they expected fires in California. Like,
she was forewarned though, because the Santa Ana winds are kind of
joking.
Oh yeah, don't let her off the hook, dude. But yeah. Anyway,
he retracted that. or he didn't retract it because it's long done, but he regrets the endorsement.
Hell yeah, he does. And it's one of those moments where, I just relish to say, I told you so. Because I hated Karen Bass when she was running. So anyway, the endorsement only flicked at identity. Bass is a black woman, Caruso a white man, but it stressed that Bass was already doing the work of trying to repair the damage caused by leaked racist us versus them remarks made by Los Angeles City Council members, all of whom were Latino. That work entailed organizing a meeting. All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that meeting was on the taxpayers' dime as well.
Do you remember that? Wasn't that guy when I was there in like 2021?
Mm-hmm.
Guy,
and somebody called the black kids monkeys or something like that, or jump around or something like that. There was
something like that, and then wasn't it like that guy was white? Mm-hmm. And remember the recall for, dude, by the way, like California, one of the best things about California politics is recall elections.
Yeah,
I wish they is so great because it can hold people accountable, and I don't understand why every state doesn't have that. Now I kind of get it, because the people who would put that on the ballots are the same people who then could be recalled. It's like, why would you help? But for somehow California has it where it's, well, I've looked into this, where a lot of states do have recalls, don't get me wrong, but it's California's like has it for everything.
Yeah.
Where I think in New Jersey, it's like much more rare. Like, I don't think we can recall our district attorneys, which you can in California. I assume you can recall the governor. I don't know if it's ever happened. But like, I looked into New Jersey, New York, where California, it's like you can recall council members, you can recall mayors, district attorneys, the governor.
Oh yeah,
you guys like to use it.
Yeah, it's one of the rare times when democracy actually works. Not kidding, no. Well, I do remember back in the early 2000s when we had Governor Gray Davis, and he got recalled, and so he got replaced by Arnold Schwarzenegger. So of course the media ran, and rightfully so, with the whole like making like total recall jokes.
Yeah. I would have voted for him just to make those jokes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Soon Xiong, 72, said, I can't recall in detail how the decision came about, but one of the issues then was, okay, we would need interaction with the federal government, wherever that may be, and she came from Congress, and she understands LA, and blah, blah, blah. So it's just really like, how can we get in good with the government, really? That's it wasn't like based on policy or anything.
Yeah. So what does he like about RFK?
I'm not sure.
Oh, he doesn't say it in there? I thought he says, I know that he endorsed him, and I think he just likes because it is a big deal for a paper of the LA Times's magnitude.
Yeah.
It's not up there with the New York Times or the Washington Post, I would say, but it's still like, it can be a big deal. I think if it does start to have a different lean, or even like a more like moderation, I think, because now every paper really is national, right? Yeah. Like, people in LA, I'm sure, read the New York Times. There are probably more New York Times subscribes in LA than in New Jersey. That one is huge, but just because New York Times is such a big paper, and a lot of these papers are that big. So like the LA Times, I think, could find a niche here where it's like, as much as we, I think, rightfully kind of berate and criticize these publications, like they do still mean something. I still think it's going to take time for the names to, unless they reverse course, but I still think it's going to take time for their stature to really fall. So if the LA Times can at least just be like something different and be of that stature, I think it can rebound.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. And if people quit, and the article does talk about some people who've resigned from the LA Times.
Oh God, no.
I know, and I'm just like, good. We have some open positions, dude. Right after I read this article, I'm dead serious. Right after I read this article, I actually went to their website and I was like, "Are you guys hiring? Like, you guys?"
I was. It's funny because I was just about to say that. I was going to say you should, because why not? You could like, you're a LA guy, you're born and raised in California, and you offer something different than like what I think the general application for the LA Times would be.
Yeah. They would be lucky to have me, a rising talent.
I know I am, Joe.
Ultimately, he said the endorsement, which he now regrets, came about because of confirmation bias and echo chambers and false assumptions about race and politics coursing through his newsroom.
Yeah, I'm real quick.
Yeah.
That's just him. He didn't know what was going on. Like he definitely just delegated it to his daughter and to other people and was just like, okay, like this is what's in vogue to say it.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. The Bass endorsement isn't the only thing the owner of the LA Times is rethinking. In recent weeks, Soon Xiang, who appeared to have outsourced much of his paper's management to his radical daughter after he took over, has come out in favor of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s nomination for Health and Human Services Secretary, appeared on News Nation to say how happy he was that Donald Trump had visited Los Angeles after the devastating fires, and approvingly quote tweeted Bill Maher and Gen X icon Justine Bateman. Before too long, he'll be quoting Curtis Yarvin. The big question is, and this is the question with all the newly based, like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Sergey Brin, and more, is whether or not it's sincere. Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe like the RFK thing, maybe because why? Like it's not like that's gonna be. How do I put this? Like that's not gonna, I think, win over tons of people.
Right.
And it seems like a kind of a random thing to, like, if it wasn't sincere, that seems pretty random. But all of a sudden he was like a big Trump supporter, right?
Right.
That would be like very obvious why he's doing it. The winds are changing. He won the popular, all this shit, right?
Yeah.
LA has trended red like multiple elections in a row. And it's like, okay, well, that's why. But like RFK is this, he's a Republican. He was he's an LA guy, didn't he live in LA hasn't lived in LA for a very long time?
I believe so, yeah.
I guess that, but it, like, to me, that's such a weird thing to be insincere about.
I wonder, maybe just because of, their connections to the medical industry or fields.
Exactly. But like a lot of people don't like RFK. Like a lot of those people don't.
That's true.
Fields. It's such a, for the most part, like people who speak out in those positions face such industry-wide criticism that it's like, why, risk that?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know what his exact quotes are on that, because it seems like even other people in Hollywood who have expressed some receptiveness to Trump did so usually from like a pretty pragmatic or business-minded perspective. Like David Zaslav, I think, who's the head of Warner Brothers, was like, the Trump presidency could loosen regulations for us, which could be good for mergers and acquisitions. So it seemed like a very pragmatic thing, not like, oh, I'm glad country's going in a new direction finally. It was more just like from a business decision. So I'm curious about Soon Xiang's reasoning behind publicly expressing
respect so much more, more, because that is what they all really care about. And once, like, as we saw, once the messaging and those topics became less and less popular, a lot of that stuff was just jettisoned. It was, well, we were making money off of it, but now that it's not very popular and it's even backlash, like organized backlashes to these things, we're done with that. That was like the cherry on top, which is why I do, as much as I'll like disagree with the politics of, let's say, like a Ben and Jerry's, like very progressive, like at least they stick to it. And they don't care. And they're like, look, we'll sell ice cream to 35% to 55%, like depending on the tides. Like, we don't care. Like, that's who we'll sell to. And I do respect that, even if I don't agree with their, like, probably the vast majority of their positions.
Right. Here they're talking about his office. We don't need to talk about that. It was clear that Bass, who was on a taxpayer-funded trip to Ghana when the fire started, was out of her depth, unsure what to do. This is underscored by her refusal to comment on the fires when asked about them. Soon Xiang couldn't believe it.
Dude, imagine you're just like your neighborhood is in a fireball and your house is burning down. And you're like scrambling and you like have your kids and your family in the car and your pets. And you're like trying to find somewhere to go, and there's just mayhem all around you. And the leader of your city has no comment.
Yeah.
For what's going on. Like not even like the vapid bullshit that politicians usually say.
Right.
And even like when Gavin Newsom would be out there like with the mask on, cleaning stuff up under some bridge because, you know, they were giving him so much crap for the filth of San Francisco and some of these cities. And it's like, at least Gavin has the wherewithal to do that. Like, she just had no comment. Like, your city is on fire. You have to have a comment. That's not an option.
Right. Yeah. Newsom at least pretended to care. Whereas
yeah, like at least during COVID, like Cuomo would get out, even though he was like funneling money to, you know, cronies and having his staff work on his book and all the shit. At least he would get out there every night and like talk to the people, and that mattered to people. And like Karen Bass, like imagine Cuomo just got on every night and was like, no comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Mr. Governor, how many people died? No comment. Like, can you imagine?
And I think it's such an easy thing to give a generic comment. Just be like, well, you know, I've just been made aware of the situation and we're monitoring it closely. My hearts go out to those.
You can do it. It's like politics 101.
Yeah.
No comment. It's like I always think like verbal meme. It's the Walter White in the back of the car where he has he's has his hands
handcuffed and
he's yelling at the screen. And it's like, no, Karen, don't say no comment. No comment. Yes, say something, Karen. I remember someone retweeted it was like Karen Bass just watched her like political feature just flash before her eyes.
Yeah. Oh man,
it's a good day to be Rick Caruso right now.
Yeah, he's been going on tour on his I Told You So tour.
Also, Rick Caruso just sounds like a made up. Like correct me if I'm wrong. First of all, he was a Republican like for years, and didn't he get famous by making some mall?
Yeah, he made two malls.
Orange County. Or
he's got a few around, but there are two specific ones in LA. The Galleria, I think, and then the Americana, I think they're called. I've been to both of them. They're very nice.
I'm sure they are. But like he sounds like a guy who became famous by making malls in Southern California, and now is running for mayor. Rick Caruso. That sounds like a made up guy.
Yeah, in a movie, like an '80s comedy.
Yeah, 90s comedy where like the dad, like the villain and the dad like makes some deal with some fairy or something,
right?
To it's like a liar type situation. The dad gets all zany and Rick Caruso is the villain.
Yeah. I will say though, it's funny because when he was running for mayor, they were trying to use his nice malls against him. They're like, "Oh, Rick Caruso's trying to turn LA into the Americana."
Have you seen how clean it is?
Yeah, how clean and safe and fixed up it is, with like these nice modern European touches. You know, like what are you trying to say? Like, have you seen Skid Row? Like, Karen Bass wants to turn LA into Skid Row.
You seen the rest of the city?
Like, yeah, exactly. But anyway. Actions speak louder than words, he told me, and the preparatory actions that have been taken since she's been mayor have been dismal, and I had to call it out and take the stance that we made the mistake.
I give her credit for one thing. If I were her, I just would have stayed in Africa. Like, I would not have come back. If it was like, you know what? I'm just fuck it. Like I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been better than no comment.
Right. Yeah. On January 13th, Sun Xiang said something most elected officials, CEOs, and university presidents would probably have an impossible time saying. We'll accept some blame, he started. At the LA Times, we endorsed Karen Bass. I think right now, frankly, that's a mistake, and we admit that. It was such a simple thing to say, but the symbolic weight of the apology was profound. Yeah, seriously. When I read that, I was like, why
I find this so interesting is because like it's like sure LA has trended, but like it's still like California's very blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as states go, and LA, like, it's shit, like it's much redder than it had been, but it's still like 2/3 of a blue city.
Yeah.
But so I say all that because like he's not. It's not like he's the owner of, I don't know what was it, the Dallas Star Tribune, or like a blue city in a red state,
right?
Or maybe a swing where it's like no, he actually is going out on a limb here by even like, could you imagine if the owner of the LA Times or the San Francisco Chronicle, right? That's the Chronicle, or the Seattle Times, like a deep blue city in a deep blue state, endorsed a cabinet member for Trump in 2016.
Yeah, that would have
that would have been insane, like unthinkable. And why? So that's why I find it so interesting. Like, he doesn't have to do this,
right?
Like, it might be even worse, because what happened with a lot of like the Washington Posts of the world, the New York Times is its own thing. They're extremely successful. They do have a niche, but like the Washington Posts of the world, the MSNBC, like they relied so much on like resistance liberals, and they actually gained a ton from Trump, ironically. Because it was like, look, we are going to support this 40 to 60% of the population on every given day. That's what we're going to feed to. We're going to make our money that way. And this time, like so it's like, look, it's not like they're going to grow, but they're going to kind of stay the same as long as there's Trump or like the MAGA going on. Like, they're still going to have that base. And they've kind of lost even that, because like the LA Times didn't endorse Kamala. Like, that was huge. They didn't endorse Trump, of course. Like, that would have been probably suicide, but they didn't endorse Kamala, which was a huge change. Washington Post also, or I can't remember exactly what they
just didn't endorse anybody.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they didn't endorse anybody, which was like the first time that's probably happened since the 80s. Like, I don't know for certain, but I would assume that they've endorsed every Democrat since Clinton in 92. I'm going to assume that. I might be wrong, but I'm going to assume that. So like, that's a big deal. So just to have those kind of changes, that it's not like they're going Fox News and they're becoming like, right, because one, I would hope even right wingers wouldn't take that seriously.
Right.
Like that's just very self-serving and not genuine. So, and the fact that he's doing this like in a city like LA, like this is basically one of those things I want to monitor and see, like, what's this guy do? Because again, he's 72 and he's a billionaire. He doesn't have to deal with any of this.
Right. Exactly.
So that's also part of why I like it, because he has fuck you money and he can just kind of do, like, clearly delegating it to his daughter didn't work. And so maybe he's like, okay, I'm taking this over now and I'm going to do this how I want to. And his politics, like a lot of people, might be not as black and white. Like, he's Asian, is he, like, I'm assuming American. He's like an Asian American guy. He's 72. He's a billionaire surgeon in LA County, which is like a lot of the actually non-white populations. That's why it shifted. It's mainly because of Asians and Hispanics have become much more red in these places. Still not majorities, but much more. So we'll see. I don't know. I find it very interesting now.
Yeah, he's a fascinating figure, and I'm watching him pretty closely.
Yeah.
For 2.5 months, ever since Donald Trump had easily won an election that the prognosticators had assured us would be a nail biter, the sea change was palpable. Meta ended its fact-checking regime. Google flouted a new EU fact-checking law. Universities rolled back their DEI bureaucracies. Everyone outside the faux progressive corporate blob yammered on about the vibe shift that was engulfing not only the country, but the world. Now, the wealthiest man in Los Angeles, one of the enablers and enactors of woke, was saying aloud what so many Americans had been waiting to hear, that it had been an awful mistake. It's true that it all felt a little too fast, a little performative, but the political value of Sun Xiong and his ilk standing up to the old dogma was beyond dispute. The era of 10 million little lies was coming to an ignominious end. Fuck yeah. As he talked about the Times, Sun Xiong sounded remorseful. I think our public, now I've come to understand, really requires authenticity, he said. He meant honesty and transparency about what was fact and what was opinion. That would require, he explained, erecting a Berlin Wall between news and opinion, which sounded like a pretty straightforward, if somewhat dated idea of what a newspaper should be. Yeah, no shit. When I asked whether he has a critical mass of reporters on staff who subscribe to his old-fashioned view of the press, he said, the answer is, I don't think I do. And he laughed briefly. That was the thing. That when I read that was when I was like, LA Times, are you guys hiring? Like,
yeah. Did you actually apply?
No, they didn't have any positions, but I might just send, because they sometimes have the thing that says like, if you don't find your position here, send us your resume and we'll consider you for future things or something.
I mean, why not?
I might as well.
The worst that happens, you don't get hired by the LA Times.
Yeah, exactly. Which I've been known to do. I've done it before. It's not that bad.
You're kind of known for not being hired by the LA Times, actually. So yeah, I mean, we can, because we're at about 40 minutes if we want to do a different time. Like I think this will be fun to see. Maybe this is just a shake up. I don't know. Maybe he is like, okay, I'm bored with this now. I'll go do something else. Or maybe he actually cares about like selling his paper and not being captured basically by ideology and being somewhat more objective and, I don't know, I guess popular, because I think even a lot of those views within LA are just not popular anymore.
Yeah. Just to wrap this up, I'll just skip to the end, because he does kind of talk about his optimism for the LA Times and for journalism in general. It sounds like. When I suggested the problem is that many young journalists, like many young people in general, are steeped in a politicized postmodernism that insists that there is no objective reality, that everything is simply a perspective. He said, "What you've outlined is exactly my concern." The solution he offered was not new reporters, but new technology. An AI-run bias meter gauging articles' ideological tilt, and hyperlinks, factual statements which could be identified and linked to the report. He'd also tapped GOP contributor Scott Jennings to be a columnist. Isn't he like the one conservative on CNN? Like the guy who's
always boning people on CNN. So the memes are so good. There was like the lady like yelling at the cat.
Yeah. And he's just casually
he's just the cat.
I swear, CNN's doing that on purpose too. Where it's like, let's put like the white conservative Republican in next to like the angry black woman.
Yeah.
Who constantly loses her shit, who always has to interrupt, but every time he tries to get a word in, she talks over him. Yeah.
It's very funny.
His reason, fact-based approach perfectly aligns with our commitment to inclusivity. Sun Xiang tweeted in late November. I like how inclusivity means like being open to conservative ideas,
which actually is things like we were saying years ago.
Yeah,
like you don't really want to be inclusive. That means everybody.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's not just different shades of what you already agree with.
So he continued, "That's the best we can do right now. Despite legacy media's declining fortunes, Sun Xiang's ambitions are big. He wants his newspaper, which in early 2024 had to lay off at least 115 people, or 20% of its newsroom, to become the voice for hopefully the nation, but at least for California." I remember when that happened, because I just lost my job with the writing gig that I had at the time. And I texted you about it. And you said something that really cracked me up. So I was like, so I texted you and I was like, I said, funny, I lost my writing job as well, and yet I feel no empathy for the people who lost their jobs at the LA Times. And then you responded with, "The LA Times were making America worse. You weren't."
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
And I remember
I was saying when you're saying that, I'm like, wait, was I told Dick about this? I can't
remember.
that
actually did kind of cheer me up, I gotta admit. And I remember when somebody tweeted out like an empty newsroom.
Yeah.
From the LA Times, like bemoaning the facts, like, yeah, well, you guys, put out the blackface of white supremacy. Like, yeah, no one gives a shit. Like,
unironically.
Yeah, exactly.
The greatest headline ever written.
Oh, and then he talks about there's just a couple more paragraphs here. One of the fissures that had opened up over the last several years pitted the reformers, those who believe the old institutions can be made whole again, and the radicals, the entrepreneurs, the replacement theorists who insist that the only way forward is to build new universities, corporations, philanthropies, and of course, newspapers. I asked Sun Xiang what he made of that. The Los Angeles Times, which has fewer than 400,000 subscribers in a city of nearly 4 million, be remade into a pillar of Los Angeles once again. He said, "That's why I'm encouraged by the fact that Bobby Kennedy was nominated, and I hope to God he gets confirmed, because he's going to be a catalyst for this kind of change, and it's change for the good of the country. It's change for the good of the people." So,
yeah. So I don't know. LA is the school system that, if I remember correctly, is somehow it's the largest school system in America, even though New York has way more people.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works, but maybe just more families in LA. But this is this school system that had that whole presentation about like there's no such thing as bad food or junk food, and they had this like crappy acting. It was like, what do you mean junk food? Like, is there poison in it? It's like, no. It's like, oh, so you just mean, and it was like all these, you know, crit terms that didn't make any sense. And then you look it up. Basically, it was this whole thing like there's no such thing as bad food, no such thing as junk food. And you look it up, it's like, yeah, this was sponsored by Nestle.
Oh God, that sounds like something from The Simpsons.
So, honestly, yes, dude, it's beyond, your city's beyond parody. Like I don't get it, and so I don't know if this is the clientele that is going to be like where RFK actually wants to make our food healthy.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the base for it, or people are so like what happened with a lot of people who got red pilled were like kind of you know, moderate, probably Democrat parents or whatever. Then they start seeing what their kids were being taught over Zoom classes during COVID. And then more of this crazy shit that came to life, people like took the red pill. Maybe that is more aligned with more Angelinos. Like more people are, and no, this shit's crazy. Yeah. Our mayor is awful and represents this stuff. Like maybe he's onto something. I don't know. Maybe he has billions of dollars. I would hope he hired some market research consultants to figure this stuff out. But
right. Yeah. I mean, you know, especially when you have a bigger figure who can do who's doing it, and like you said, who didn't have to. You know, he's like the article said, he's the richest guy in LA. But for someone like that to be like, yeah, I think we fucked up. I hope that paves the way for regular people to be like, yeah, we fucked up too. I shouldn't have voted for Cameron Bass. So we'll see.
I don't know. It's very, very interesting. I was because I love, so the New York Times puts out, I remember they did it for the last election, and I love, so they do a map, like a very detailed, and they don't have every state up right now, like information comes in, but they have a map that's how, you know, every precinct voted in 2020, and you can scale out, so you can go precinct to like district to county, state, like all this stuff and how it voted. But then what I love about it is that you can also look how it shifted compared to 2020, and the last one was 2020, 2016. So you can see it's like, you know, you look at a city like look at like Manhattan, where it's like every however precinct, district, whatever it is, it's still blue. Like there are no like red districts in Manhattan, but then you look at the shift and it's like almost all red. Like they've all, and LA is the same thing, where there are red districts in LA. Some parts of Beverly Hills, parts of like Glendale and different. I actually looked at your neighborhood. I looked at Highland Park, and how it shifted. And while it's still like a blue area, like it shifted to the right. I can send you this. So I just like
send it to me. I'm curious to see that.
It's just kind of fun to go through that when you're bored. And you can see like the shifts. And I wish they had compared, because now why it's important is because it's like, it's not just red and blue. It's these are 3 Trump elections. So a lot, like, even though a lot of the suburbs in 2020 went blue, a lot of the cities shifted red. Like LA shifted right in 2020. It then shifted right again in 2024. So when you go and look, like LA may have shifted 6, 7, 8 points since 2016. Now again, it's still only like 30 something, low 30%, but that's a big difference. So I don't know if you can get some of the moderates and new voters, and you know, you guys very well might. You know, I don't think California will ever go red again, right? Or LA County will even go red, but it'd be interesting to make it, because Trump, like we said last time, he flipped 10 counties in California.
That's crazy.
A ton of them are like Latino, like Irvine County, or not? Is it Irvine County? No. Imperial County or something. San Bernardino, like these sorts of Riverside. That's it. Riverside County. You know, a lot of these are like majority Latino counties. And he flipped a lot of them. So I like this kind of stuff because it shows how people think, what their values are. Changes as much as I bemoan it, yet we're still a 2-party system. It's interesting to see those changes because it's just culture, and I think that's very it's fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely, man. So we listened to a podcast with Barry Weiss, still connected to the Free Press here, with Seabass. Seabag. Seabass is from Dumb and Dumber. Seabag.
Simon Sebag Montefiore. I read his book like 12, 13 years ago, Jerusalem. There's lots of books. But this book is very cool. It's like a biography of a city, which I really like. It's right here. Thick Boy.
Yeah.
The podcast was just about the concept of like the West.
Yeah.
And it was very, because he is Jewish Italian, I believe. Like he's definitely Jewish, and I think he's part Italian. And
but he's got that British accent though.
But he's been British, yeah. Well, his yeah. So he's British, of course. Yeah. But like going back, that's where his name comes from, and his great grandfather, I think, was Italian Jew, maybe definitely a Jew. Back in the day, and he was extremely successful, a businessman, and he just had some very interesting things to say about like the like a lot of Middle East stuff, which I think the Free Press is, it's very is like pro-Israel, which I tend to be also in many ways, but not all of them. And I think it's sometimes very, very pro-Israel, understandably, because of Barry Weiss, but I think he had some really interesting points about what has gone on there and how diverse it really is, and how how it was really, I think what interested me, because I read the book so long ago, but not even 200 years ago, I think they were saying, maybe not even that far back. Like Jerusalem was a backwater. Like it was not what it is today. It was really just neglected. There were like a few thousand people, if that, living there. And although it's been like the most important piece of real estate in the world for thousands of years, for like, depending on who you ask Jews, like 5,000 years, but a very long time. And actually the 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Benjamin, had Jerusalem, so I get to live there because it's part of my birthright.
That's right. Yes, that's how that works.
Yes, that's how it works. We really nailed it with the real estate on that one. I love to share that map.
I saw this meme, and it was like, like the big chinned like Chad guy.
Yeah. The Giga Chad.
Yeah. And then it was just like, how about we just put a Holy Land that's not in the Middle East? Like,
yeah, it's really interesting. I do plan to go there at some point in my life. I'm gonna sound like the like, what was it? Who's the lady on The View?
Honey Hostin?
No, the white one.
Oh, I don't remember. Joy Behar?
Joy Behar, yeah. But it's like people are dying left and right, and it's COVID, and she's like, some of us have wanted to take trips to Italy. It's like lady, you're not. You have no concern, but yeah, I'm gonna sound their way right now. Where like all the places I want to go, or like in wars. Like I've really wanted to go to Israel and Lebanon and Palestine. Can't go there. Wow. They can't figure it out. I really want to go to Russia and can't go there. So come on, Trump, like end these wars so that I can travel to these places. I'm kidding, of course, but I do actually really want to go to Israel and Russia.
Yeah,
and these places.
Well, there's no war zone going on in LA. Well, actually, kind of
is perpetual.
It's on fire.
Yeah.
Jim Clark, who is not who's no longer on Twitter, unfortunately. But
your friend.
Huh?
Wait, Jim?
Jim Clark.
Wait,
who's been on the show? The horror guy.
What do you mean he's not on Twitter?
He's not on Twitter anymore.
I talked to him today.
Shut up! Really?
I literally messaged with him today.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I guess he's back on.
I asked him if he's seen Arcadian.
Oh,
which is what I wanted to talk about. Actually, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Because just to change it up, because I wanted to do a segment where if we have time, we either like one of us, both of us, whichever, either like recommends something they saw recently or like doesn't recommend it, like don't see this. Mm-hmm. And Arcadian is my it might be one of my biggest surprises of the year.
Yeah.
So can I talk about it for a sec?
Yeah.
Because it's really good. It's a
Nick Cage. He's back on.
Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah, I messaged him today.
Good.
What were you going to say about him?
Oh, he messaged me, and like when I tweeted out that I was getting out of LA because of the fires, and he messaged me and he just goes, "Man, y'all always on fire."
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
All right.
You guys are always on fire. Get it together.
I know.
Figure it out.
Exactly.
Where in the country doesn't have issues though? I've thought about this.
I don't know, because when we were going through the fires, my editor, she lives in, or one of the editors I works with, she lives somewhere like in Kentucky, or no, but there was some like ice storm that she was going through, so they had the exact opposite problem.
Like everywhere in the country, I feel it kind of deals with something.
Yeah, because you have like in the Midwest and stuff, like you have like tornadoes and shit and twisters.
Yeah, like the Great Plains, you have like twisters, tornadoes, dust bowl type shit.
Yeah.
And then Midwest just kind of sucks with weather. Yeah. You get just freezing cold and wind and blizzards. Northeast, same thing. Where I live, you kind of get screwed by everything. It kind of depends. Like, we could get nothing for a while, and it's really nice where it's like, even compared to the northern part of the state of New Jersey, it's like really temperate. But sometimes it'll be like, hey, you're going to get a hurricane in September. You're going to get a blizzard. And then actually you're going to get hit with an earthquake. And it's just, and then like one of the places I was thinking recently was like, where it never has to deal with anything is like Western North Carolina. And then they get hit with these floods. It's just detrimental. So everywhere you just kind of get screwed. Yeah. And then if you live up in like, maybe like the Seattle area, it just kind of sucks all the time.
Yeah, it just seems very bleak.
Yeah,
part of the country.
I don't know if they get any like natural disaster type stuff. Well, they have a volcano that went off, right?
Yeah, but did it kill anybody? Did it like cause any?
Yeah, dude, it killed that one. Have you not seen that documentary?
No,
okay,
which
one? Find this. We watched this in school. There's this documentary of this guy who refused to leave his home.
Oh, nice.
And he lived in the zone of, was it Mount St. Helens? Was that it?
Yeah.
And they're like, you're gonna die. And he's like, that's government bullshit or something. And actually, now I feel bad, not for him, because he had a ton of cats, and like the cats don't know.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't care about cats, but now they're like my favorite thing in the world. So I'm like, oh, it's fucking dumbass. But anyway, he was like this libertarian type guy who just and like Blue Oyster Cult, I think, wrote a song about him.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I forget his name. I will find it. We watched this in like 10th grade. And it stuck with me. Did it kill? Well, it killed one guy. It didn't have to, though.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, refused to leave. And I remember watching that, and I'll find that and send it to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. But so yeah, if you live in that part of the country, like maybe the Pacific Northwest, yeah, you deal with Antifa and just this bleak and shitty.
Yeah.
Montana? Does Montana deal with anything?
Maybe snowstorms?
Yeah, maybe.
But even they don't. It doesn't seem like they're ever really catastrophic, though. It just seems like
no, you never hear anything really catastrophic in Montana. It's probably cold, but you deal with that. Like, I'm talking just like ruin your life type shit, which everywhere else. I live in Louisiana. That's just like floods and hurricanes.
Yeah,
it just kind of sucks.
And jazz. Ugh.
Yeah, and jazz. I like jazz. Not my favorite, but it's fine. I like jazz live is kind of fun. Like, it is cool. What's cool about New Orleans and Louisiana is like kids there, unlike probably the vast like poor black kids in New Orleans, learn how to play brass instruments, which is really cool, which I don't think happens in a lot of other parts of the country.
No.
So I do like that. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Seabag.
Oh, no, Arcadian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Arcadian, real quick, because I know we're running out of time. Because I think we're going to talk about that pod. We should have a longer ep on it.
Yeah.
So if you really want to hear us talk about that, let us know. We will continue with that. I'm a big fan of Montefiore, but anyway, I want to discuss Arcadian because it was really good. I thought it was going to be bad to like tolerable to bad.
Yeah.
Because it's a Nick Cage movie and it didn't get any publicity. And I'm just like, I'm going to watch this. It's a 2024 movie. Try and watch as many as possible during the year. And I'm going to watch anything with Nick Cage, even if you watch some stinkers like The Retirement Plan, which is something I watched last year, which sucked. But dude, this movie has really good monsters, like some of the most inventive monsters I've seen in a while. Probably the last time I felt like I saw something fresh with a monster was like A Quiet Place. I thought that was inventive and interesting. Like, these guys are really really scary and cool.
Yeah.
It's a very simple post-apocalyptic isolated location. So it's low budget, you know, it's like 2 houses, and it's fighting off monsters. You can only come out at night. So like that's the shtick. So you can go out and you can forage during the day, you can be outside, and of course it's like him and 2 boys. His 2 sons. One of them falls in love with a girl who like has a crush on a girl who's on like an adjacent farm or something, and he has to get back in time before yada yada. You see where this goes. My biggest gripe with this movie is that, unlike so many other movies, Nick Cage doesn't lose his shit. He's very reserved, which I don't like.
Yeah.
And they do this thing where in my review I wrote today, I'm like, it's not the Boba Fett effect where it's like you introduce a cool character and then you just kill him off. It's not that, but I call it the only other the closest movie that I referenced that did this was Deliverance with Burt Reynolds, where it's like you introduce us to this badass guy who's like an outdoorsman and then you like incapacitate him for the vast majority of the movie.
Oh, lame.
Like, have you not seen Deliverance?
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago.
Yeah, like everyone knows the sodomy scene, and like it's a very good movie. It's definitely fucked up. Definitely ruined the idea. Like I feel bad for West Virginia because I always assumed that movie took place in West Virginia.
Right.
It doesn't. It doesn't take place close to West Virginia. It takes place like northern Georgia, like Marjorie Taylor Greene area, and
that explains a lot.
Yeah, it does. But I always feel bad for West Virginia. But like, so Burt Reynolds is like kind of badass dude, and then he gets like shot or something or hit with an arrow. I don't remember what. Yeah. But it's basically John Voight and the other guys who are kind of like Atlanta businessmen out of their, you know, fish out of water type thing against these like psycho hicks. So anyway, that's what like Nick Cage, I'm not going to ruin the movie, I hope, but he like isn't in it enough. Like he's just like incapacitated. You know, I'll stop there. Yeah. But it's like, dude, he's the draw.
Right.
What I said if they put his persona for Mandy in this movie, that's a 5-star movie. Like, I'm not exaggerating. That is a badass, fun movie.
Yeah.
Because in this, it's like his 2 sons fighting these things off, and one of them's like kind of the typical kind of young man, likes girls, kind of more like the jock stereotype archetype, and then the other one's more the bookish analog engineering type archetype, right? And they have to work together to fight these monsters that are really cool. And like so if they say, and what I like about this movie, last thing I'll say, is that it set itself up, I think, really well to be both a prequel and a sequel, because the first scene of the movie is Nick Cage running with like clearly supplies and just like sirens going off and bullets being fired. So you could tell it's like, hey, here's where this started. And then cuts to 15 years later and it's the post-apocalypse. It's apocalyptic. So they set themselves up very much for a Quiet Place series where you can have a sequel because of the ending, which I won't give away. And then you could have a prequel. A very cool prequel, I think, now that I've seen these monsters. Like, you've watched a lot of creature features, and we love horror movies. This is why getting back to Jim, this is why I messaged Jim. So, dude, have you seen Arcadian? He literally works at a movie theater. And he's like, no, any good? I'm like, yeah, I loved it. For what it was, I thought it was very, very good. So that's Ben's recommendation of the week. Arcadian, very cool, inventive monsters that are like cryptid, fucked up, really cool, violent things.
Awesome. All right. I like me some Nick Cage monster movies.
It's like you have Nick Cage, who literally has a YouTube clip, like a thing for 10 years, has over 1 million views. That's just called Nick Cage losing his shit. And you don't have him lose. He's known for losing his shit, and you don't have him losing his shit. Why? Like, that's what I don't get.
There's one movie that he did back in the late 80s where he thinks he was bitten by a vampire.
Isn't that Vampire's Kiss? Or
I think so, yeah. And he's talking to like some woman in an office setting. I don't know if it's like a psychiatrist or something. And he starts reciting the alphabet. And you think that that he's going to stop because she's like, okay, I get it. Okay, yeah. But he keeps going. He does the whole alphabet. He's like A, B, C, D. Dude, I know. And he does the whole alphabet. So it's like a minute long thing.
In college, it was almost a ritual where like Thursday at 4:00, we'd all crack a beer and put that YouTube video on on our shared TV and just like watch it. We could probably recite it scene by scene. That probably half of those millions of views are like me and my friends watching that video. And now that was 2012. Who knows if it came out around then, 2011. Like he's lost his shit in other movies since. That was before Mandy. That was before that movie where he's like isn't he like a fucked up parent where he like wants to kill his kids? What's that movie? I know, I forget, but it was before that. And like a bunch of movies since then. Like they could make probably a whole nother clip show of him losing his shit. So anyway, Arcadian, very good. I loved it. I give it an 86, I think.
All right. Yeah. Cool. 86 out of 100, huh?
Yeah, it's 4.5-star movie. And if they just had him being himself, 5-star movie.
Yeah. 86. Want to like assign something like I give it 86 popcorns out of a single bag or something like you know what I mean, like
sure, whatever you want to do. I'm using the same system. If you grade it out on a 5-star, because I go off the Rotten Tomatoes thing, like each half star is 10. So this allows you to, my system allows you to, which I based off of the Lights Camera Barstool podcast, which doesn't exist anymore. Like an 89 and an 81 are very different movies, even if they're both 4.5 stars. So this gives you even more variance, right? Like in there, more diversity in there. So 86 is a really, really good movie.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, that's it for me, Ben.
Yes, let me know if you get a job at the LA Times.
Yeah, I think I'll just send them.
That'd be hilarious.
I'm just gonna send him a resume cover letter and just say, "Hey,
send him this podcast."
Yeah, the owner sounds like a cool dude.
Sounds like a cool dude.
All right, everybody, stay reckless.
Fight the crits.